On a spring afternoon in suburban California, where white picket fences surround rose-filled gardens, a story so tragic it seems unbelievable began. It started with a high school romance, one of those pure loves that makes you believe it's one of a kind. But behind that perfect facade lay a dark truth, a secret that, if revealed, would destroy everything. This is the story of Liam and Ella. From the time they were children, they were inseparable. Young Liam, with his dark brown hair always falling into his eyes, was often shy but had a profoundly deep soul. And young Ella, with her silky blonde hair and emerald green eyes, always had a mischievous, unquenchable fire. They grew up in houses opposite each other on Maplewood Street, and their friendship seemed destined. They shared every secret, every dream, from building a small wooden boat to conquer the nearby creek, to vowing never to leave each other's side. Their relationship deepened over time. The clumsy hand holding on the walk home from school, the stolen glances in the classroom, all signaled that their simple friendship was evolving into something more complex, more intense. In their senior year, Liam, with his typical shyness, confessed his feelings for Ella under the lights of the football field after a game. He remembers how Ella smiled, a radiant smile that warmed his heart. It was their first kiss, a moment etched into their memories, full of innocence and hope. After graduation, they stayed together. Liam studied architecture in college, while Ella pursued art. The distance didn't fade their love. Every time Liam came home for the weekend, everything felt the same. They drove along the coast, the cold Pacific winds blowing through Ella's hair, and they talked about their future. A small suburban house, with a big dog and a garden full of roses, just like their own. Everything changed on a rainy night when Liam was visiting Ella's house. Her father, Robert, was rummaging through an old box in the attic. It was a dusty, old oak box. Robert was usually a calm man, but that night his face was pale, his eyes fixed on an old photograph. It was a picture of a young woman holding a newborn baby, next to a man who looked frighteningly familiar. Robert suddenly slammed the box shut, as if trying to hide something terrible. His strange behavior planted a seed of doubt in Liam's mind. Deep down, a voice whispered that something was wrong. He asked Ella about the photo, but she just shook her head. "My parents never talk about the past," she said, and her eyes held a fleeting, mysterious sadness. But the voice inside Liam wouldn't stop. He couldn't forget the look in Robert's eyes, a look filled with fear and horror. It was the look of someone who was keeping a deadly secret. Liam tried to ignore the feeling, to believe it was just a coincidence. But, as we now know, coincidences are often the first sign of a tragic story waiting to be told. That rainy night became a small crack in Liam and Ella's perfect world. It wasn't a loud event, just a quiet unease, an unspoken question that Liam couldn't stop thinking about. He tried to forget it, but the image of Robert's pale face haunted him, especially the chilling familiarity of the man in the old photograph. A few weeks later, during a visit home, Liam decided to dig deeper. He found an old neighbor, Mrs. Carroll, who had lived on Maplewood Street her whole life. Mrs. Carroll, a woman with gray hair and kind eyes, had witnessed the lives of both their families. Liam hesitantly asked her about the old days. Mrs. Carroll smiled sadly. "The Peterson family's story. It's heartbreaking," she said. She told a story Liam had never heard. A story about his father, David, and Ella's mother, Sarah. When they were young, David and Sarah were in love. They were deeply, passionately in love, but their relationship was forbidden by their families. David's father, a strict and religious man, forbade the relationship. Torn between love and family expectations, David made a heartbreaking decision. He married another woman, one he didn't love, to appease his father. At the same time, Sarah, heartbroken and devastated, ran away. She disappeared, and no one knew what had happened to her. "But, Ella," Liam said, his voice trembling. Mrs. Carroll shook her head sadly. Sarah returned a few years later with a little girl. Her name was Ella. She said she had married a man named Robert and they had settled here. No one knew the truth. The name Robert startled Liam. No one knew the truth. Those words echoed in his mind. He began searching for information about Sarah's family. He found old articles, public records, and the pieces began to fit together, forming a horrifying picture. It turned out that Sarah didn't marry Robert right after she disappeared. She left alone. And the newborn baby in the photo, the baby she held in her arms. It was a boy. Liam returned home, trembling. He found an old box in his father's closet, a box he had always been forbidden to touch. Inside, there was an old photograph, a photo of a woman with silky blonde hair and emerald green eyes, just like Ella, and a man standing beside her, not his father, but Robert. But there was something strange. The photo had been cut, a part of it torn, as if someone wanted to erase someone from the picture. And then, another horrifying truth was revealed. The box also contained an old birth certificate. Mother's name, Sarah. Father's name, David. Date of birth, November 3rd. But the child's name wasn't Liam. It was Jacob. Liam fell into a panic. He started looking for more information about the name Jacob, and what he found froze him in his tracks, as if all the blood had drained from his body. In a public record, Liam's name had been changed. His old name was Jacob. Liam's mind reeled, the pieces of past and present flashing in his mind like a nightmare. The photo of Sarah, the woman in Robert's photo, and the name hidden on the birth certificate, Jacob. It all pointed to one undeniable truth. Robert hadn't married Sarah from the beginning. He had appeared later, married her, and adopted her child. He had always thought he was a boy born from a happy marriage. But now he knew the truth. He was the son of David and Sarah. And that meant he couldn't say the words. He didn't want to say the words. The truth was like a tsunami. It came crashing down and washed everything away. Liam felt like he was drowning in an ocean of lies, every fragment of his life a rotten plank. He had spent his entire life believing in a fairy tale, but now he realized it was a horror story. He was the child of David and Sarah. That made everything messy. If Sarah was his mother and Sarah was Ella's mother, then that could only mean one thing. He and Ella were siblings. Every memory suddenly became disgusting. The kisses, the touches, the sweet whispers under the stars, all turned into horror. Their love was not a beautiful story. It was a forbidden act, a mistake, an impossibility. Did Ella know? Or was she also a victim, deceived by the secrets of adults? Liam decided he had to face the truth. He went straight to Robert's house. The doorbell echoed in the silent night, but no one answered. He walked in and saw Robert sitting in the living room, his face lit by the dim light of a night lamp. He had a weary expression, as if he had been carrying this burden for too long. Liam stood before him, his hand holding the old birth certificate. "Mr. Robert," he said, his voice filled with anger and pain. "Why?" Robert sighed and he told the story. After Sarah left, Robert, who had long been in love with her, went looking for her. He found her pregnant, alone, and scared. He decided to help her out of love. He had always loved Sarah, but their love could never be accepted. David was already another woman's husband. Robert and Sarah decided to keep it a secret. They faked the birth certificate, changed the child's name, and started a new life with a new story, a story they hoped would hide the truth forever. But there was one thing Robert never anticipated: the intense love between Liam and Ella. Liam, with his new name, and Ella, the girl Robert loved like his own daughter, fell in love. When Robert found out, he was in shock. He tried to stop them but couldn't. He didn't want to hurt his daughter. He had lived with the lie for so long that he didn't know how to tell the truth. Liam felt like he was spinning. The truth was too brutal. Robert had loved Sarah, but Sarah only loved David. And the child born, him, fell in love with Sarah's daughter with Robert. It was a tragic, vicious cycle. Everything in his life was built on a lie. And Ella, she was deceived from the beginning. Liam went to Ella's room. He saw her sitting by the window, looking outside. He walked closer, and with a voice full of tears, he told her the whole story. When he finished, Ella remained silent. She looked at him with those emerald green eyes, eyes that were once full of mischief, now only filled with emptiness. A tear rolled down her cheek. She had always felt something was off, a feeling she couldn't explain, but she never thought it would be this. Everything became blurred, and her heart shattered. Their love, something she had believed was destiny, was now just a horrific violation of nature. Silence filled the room. It wasn't the peaceful silence of two lovers, but the heavy silence of two people being destroyed by a secret. Ella finally spoke, her voice trembling. "So, we're biological siblings?" she asked. Her voice was weak, as if speaking the words was too much. Liam nodded. He couldn't look her in the eyes. Those eyes that had once been his comfort were now a mirror reflecting the horrible truth. They had loved each other, a passionate, pure love, but now it was just an unerasable scar on their souls. They had spent their lives building a future together, a future that no longer existed. They had been lied to, not by strangers, but by the people they trusted most, the people they called parents. Although Robert acted out of love, the consequences of that lie were devastating. Their world had collapsed. Their love was not a beautiful story, but a horrific transgression. They couldn't be together. They couldn't be friends. They could only be siblings. It was cruel. The change was too sudden, too devastating. Every time they saw each other, they would no longer see a lover, but a mirror reflecting lies and tragedy. So what did they do? They broke up. Not because the love ended, but because they couldn't continue. Liam moved out of town, and Ella, with a broken heart, stayed behind. They became strangers. They vowed never to contact each other. To survive, to heal the wounds, they needed distance, they needed to forget. But how can you forget a love like that? In the end, their story does not have a happy ending. It is a painful lesson about the consequences of deceit. It is a reminder that sometimes the truth can be more brutal than any lie. This is a story about forbidden love, about terrifying family secrets, and about scars that never heal. It is a reminder of how complex and painful life can be, and how sometimes the people we love most are the ones who can cause the deepest wounds. If the story touched your heart, please leave a like. Subscribe to the channel for more dramatic stories, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. Thank you for listening.